Welcome to LexiCast, a podcast designed to help you grow in your legal practice, with weekly updates on current topics, trends, and practical insights. Perfect for listening on the go. Let's dive in.
Welcome to today's deep dive. And we're talking directly to you today, the busy legal professional. And we're tackling a pain point that is, honestly, it's probably chewing up a massive portion of your day right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Picture this. You sit down at your desk with your morning coffee. You fully intend to finalize a motion for summary judgment
Or maybe review a crucial commercial lease.
Right. But first, you decide to quickly check your inbox, just to clear the deck.
Always a dangerous thought.
It really is. Because fast forward 3 hours, and your entire morning has just been consumed by a relentless stream of messages. You're putting out minor fires. You're navigating deeply nested reply-all chains.
And you haven't actually built a single hour of substantive legal work.
Exactly. Yet you feel completely drained.
It's a profoundly frustrating experience.
Yeah.
And it's universally common across the legal industry. The billable hour is the fundamental metric of most practices. But a massive percentage of that time is just siphoned away by managing communication.
You end up functioning as a high-priced dispatcher.
Rather than doing the complex analytical work you were actually trained to do.
So that dynamic is exactly what we are dismantling in this deep dive. We're drawing from a really comprehensive training framework designed specifically for legal professionals.
We're going to unpack how to stop letting your inbox manage you.
We've got practical time management strategies, reader-centered grafting tips that honestly completely invert how lawyers usually write, and some pretty serious risk management protocols.
Because the stakes here aren't just about saving time. They're about mitigating actual liability.
So let's start with the foundational issue here, the trap of the micro-distraction.
Right. So having email notifications active, every ping, every banner, every pop-up, it subjects your brain to constant interruptions.
It's not just the 30 seconds it takes to read the message.
Not at all. The research on this cognitive disruption is alarming. It's the destruction of your flow, pulling your brain out of a deep legal analysis to process a jarring shift in context. It requires significant mental energy.
And doesn't the source say it takes upwards of 20 minutes to fully regain that previous state of focus?
Yes. You are essentially fragmenting your own intellect. We operate under this delusion that we're multitasking.
But really, it's just continuous self-inflicted interruption. There's this great story in our source material that gives a blueprint for escaping this. It involves 2 school principals.
Oh, right.
They were commiserating about being absolutely flooded with emails from parents and staff. But then they had this realization about their actual identity and role.
Their primary job was to lead the school, to be out in the hallways.
Right, supporting teachers, handling student issues. Their job was not to sit in a back office hitting refresh on their inbox.
That realization requires a fundamental shift in how professionals view their value. If you are tethered to a screen simply reacting to inbound messages, you're failing at your primary strategic objective.
So they fixed it by restricting their inbox access to just a few set times a day, early morning, midday, and late afternoon. And the critical takeaway for you, the legal practitioner, is what happened next.
They found out that if a situation was a genuine emergency, people didn't rely on email.
Exactly. They picked up the phone. If the sky is genuinely falling on a deal, opposing counsel or your most demanding client will call you directly.
Now, I anticipate some resistance to this idea.
Oh, for sure.
Particularly from junior lawyers. The immediate counter-argument is always about the expectations of managing partners. If a senior partner emails a first-year associate, they expect a reply within 5 minutes.
That is the reality of law firm culture. A junior associate hears this and thinks, well, that's a fast track to getting fired.
Right. If you're a junior, you can't just go dark for 4 hours to draft a memo without communicating that boundary. You have to manage up.
You tell your supervising partner, look, I am going offline for the next 2 hours to focus entirely on the Smith brief so I can get it to you by noon. If you need me urgently, please call my extension.
That transforms silence from perceived laziness into dedicated, billable focus. You batch your communication, you handle the inbox during a designated block, process it systematically, and then close the application entirely.
Okay, but processing that inbox systematically is the next hurdle. Because coming back from court, or say a long weekend, to find 300 unread messages.
It feels paralyzing.
It's a visual representation of work you're already behind on.
So the strategy to deploy here is the 4Ds protocol. This is a highly aggressive triage system designed to break down a massive backlog in just a 15 to 20-minute block of dedicated time.
Okay, break the 4 Ds down for us.
The first D is delete. This requires ruthlessness. You scan the sender and the subject line. These are the endless industry newsletters, vendor updates, internal committee memos that require absolute zero action.
You don't even open them.
You purge them from your system without a second thought.
Reclaiming that digital real estate is such a psychological relief. But then you hit the emails that actually require attention.
Which brings us to the second D, do. If you open a message and the required action takes under 2 minutes, you do not flag it for later.
The old touch the paper once rule.
Exactly. You draft the quick confirmation, send the requested file, and archive the thread immediately. Flagging a 2-minute task just creates a secondary to-do list that you have to manage all over again.
Right. What's the third D?
Delegate. Often you receive correspondence from an opposing party that needs a substantive response, but the initial review can be handled by a junior associate or a paralegal.
So you forward it to them.
Forward it immediately with explicit instructions. But, and this is crucial, the mechanism fails if you do not simultaneously set a calendar reminder to follow up. You move the responsibility, but you retain the ultimate oversight.
You're pushing the workflow down the chain, but keeping your eye on the deadline. And the final D.
Defer. And this requires really careful handling in a legal context. If an email takes longer than 2 minutes, can't be deleted, and can't be delegated, it must be deferred.
I can imagine a lawyer hearing the word defer and panicking about missing a strict statute of limitations buried in an email.
Deferring is entirely about strategic scheduling, not avoidance. You extract the deadline, put it on your firm's central docket or your calendar, and move the email into a specific working folder.
You categorize it for deep work later.
Yes. The objective is to remove it from the chaotic general inbox, where it just acts as this constant source of low-level anxiety.
Let's quickly hit some tech hacks before we move on. Our sources suggest some rapid-fire wins. Turn off your notifications, unsubscribe from junk for just 1 solid month to permanently thin out your inbox.
And set up auto filters for industry updates, like Lawyers Weekly, so they skip your inbox and go straight to a read later folder.
So simple, but so effective. But beyond the tech, there's a behavioral pattern here, the illusion of email safety.
This is a massive psychological point. People, especially junior lawyers, default to email because it feels inherently protective.
If you have to deliver bad news to a client or confront a colleague about a missed deadline, drafting an email lets you control the narrative.
You can edit your words, build a paper trail, and avoid the immediate, unpredictable discomfort of a live human reaction.
But that avoidance behavior frequently exacerbates the conflict.
It leads to a severe over-reliance on digital communication for emotionally charged situations.
Let's test this with a real scenario. Say a colleague is running late on a crucial task. Your instinct is to fire off a stern email.
And then you just sit there, frustrated, waiting for a reply. That email just creates a paper trail of delay.
But if you walk over to their desk or pick up the phone, you inject the human element back into it.
You gather context that an email fundamentally lacks. You might find out they aren't ignoring you, they're just blocked on an instruction and we're too embarrassed to ask.
In a 3-minute conversation, you de-escalate the frustration immediately.
Exactly. Sometimes the absolute fastest way to resolve a bottleneck is to stop typing and start talking.
But realistically, a vast majority of a lawyer's output is written communication. Which brings us to drafting. Traditional legal training actually sets you up to fail at writing emails.
It does. It's the conflict between writer-centered drafting and reader-centered drafting. Law school revolves around the formal memorandum. Junior lawyers are trained to present the background, outline the facts, detail the case law, and then finally on the last page, reveal the conclusion.
It functions exactly like a mystery novel.
Right. You force the reader to wade through all the exposition. That perfectly mirrors the lawyer's logical journey in researching the issue. That's writer-centered.
But an email demands a reader-centered structure, the exact opposite.
The data on this comes from eye-tracking studies on how humans consume text on screens. People do not read screens the way they read printed case law. They don't process every word from left to right.
Their eyes move in a distinct F pattern. I enthusiastically love this concept.
It's fascinating. The heat maps show that a reader consumes the top lines of an email fully, but as they scroll down, their visual attention just drops off a cliff.
They stick aggressively to the left-hand margin. They're just skimming, searching for keywords and deadlines.
Large blocks of text on the right side of the screen are practically invisible to them.
So actionable formatting. Put your key conclusion and deadline in the very first paragraph. Keep sentences short and push to the left.
Use bullet points. You invert the legal memo, place the bottom line up front.
Now here is a pro tip for billing that I found brilliant. If you need to justify a $5,000 fee for complex advice, sending a 3-sentence F-pattern optimized email might backfire. The client reads it in 10 seconds and thinks, why am I paying for this?
But if you send them a dense 15-page formal advice document directly in the body of the email, they'll skim it, miss the recommendation, and feel overwhelmed.
So you do both. You put the punchy, highly structured, quick answer in the email body, but you attach the dense formal advice document to it.
You cater to their immediate attention span with the email, but satisfy their need for thoroughness with the attachment. They physically see the actual labor that went into it.
Brilliant. Now let's talk about, before they even open the email, the subject line.
It is the most vital real estate in your daily communication. The optimal length is roughly 8 to 10 words.
It must summarize the content and state the deadline. Using Rees-Smith matter is a total dereliction of professional communication.
It gives zero context.
There's that fascinating anecdote in the sources about the practice manager. She was trying to get unpaid client invoices settled. She stopped using generic subject lines and changed the wording to be precise and deadline-focused.
And she saw unpaid bills get paid 25% faster.
Just from changing 8 to 10 words.
It's incredible.
Yep.
But beyond efficiency, there are serious risk management vulnerabilities in the email header, navigating the TOW, CC, and BCC fields.
The rules here need to be crystal clear. To means action is required. If the name is in the to line, you are establishing an expectation that they will execute a task.
And the CC, the carbon copy, is strictly FYI, no action needed. And please stop doing group reply all just to say congratulations.
Yes, but the liability with reply all goes much deeper.
It does. Consider a deeply nested email chain circulating internally among a legal team for weeks. It's got candid discussions about the weaknesses of a client's case.
If you suddenly reply all to that chain, but casually add a third-party expert witness to the tell line,
The consequences are catastrophic. By adding someone new to the thread, they might scroll down and see early, confidential emails they shouldn't have access to.
you could inadvertently waive attorney-client privilege.
The protocol is absolute. Start new chains. When introducing a new party, initiate a brand new email with a fresh subject line.
We also need to talk about tone and legal risk. Email strips away 90% of communication. No body language, no vocal tone.
Because of that sterile environment, you have to rigorously police your professional tone. Avoid sarcasm entirely.
It almost never translates. And avoid overcapitalizing. To the reader, it looks like you are aggressively shouting at them.
Our source framework cites a strict protocol used by the Director of Public Prosecutions, the DPP. They mandate that all correspondence, even internal, must maintain a high level of formality.
Because these emails can be reviewed by external bodies later, like the Crime and Corruption Commission, the CCC.
Exactly. Keep it formal to avoid looking inappropriately familiar with police or opposing parties.
Standardized professional output protects your reputation. So we've covered a lot of ground, but the core philosophy here is the 1% rule.
Right. You don't need a massive overhaul tomorrow.
You're looking for marginal gains. Finding 10 small things, like optimizing subject lines or turning off pings, that each save you 1% of your time.
That equals getting 10% of your work week back.
10%. As we wrap up, we want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought from the sources regarding your digital footprint.
There's a chilling but necessary quote from documentary filmmaker Michael Moore. He said, "I assume everything I'm saying in an email or saying on the telephone is being looked at."
In the age of hacking and legal e-discovery, that isn't paranoia. That's just reality. Opposing counsel software can scan years of your correspondence to build a profile on your structural vulnerabilities.
So ask yourself right now, what is sitting in your sent folder today that you wouldn't want read aloud in a courtroom?
Let that reality inform every message you draft. Are you communicating with precision or just adding noise to the record? Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Try out just 2 or 3 of these tactics this week and start taking your time back.
That's it for today's episode on LexiCast. If you're looking for more in-depth episodes that can also be claimed as CPD activities, check out our LexiCast CPD Plus page linked in this episode's notes. Follow us now to stay up to date, and we'll see you next time.